Chapter 9. Not surprisingly, the situation changed dramatically when Theo's mother got involved. Theo called her during lunch, and 15 minutes later, she was at school, in Miss Gladwell's office, demanding answers. She was furious that Theo had been interrogated by the police without his parents being present, but Miss Gladwell reassured her that Theo handled himself well. He was cautious with his answers and gave the officers as little information as possible. The search of his locker was unavoidable because the school had the right to open it for any good reason. School policy required Miss Gladwell and all other administrators to fully cooperate with law enforcement officials in all situations. Miss Boone initially wanted to take Theo from school to her office and then to the police station. Miss Gladwell, though, thought it was wiser to wait until classes were over. Theo had already been yanked out of class once that Wednesday, and to do so again would only create even more suspicion. Just keep things as normal as possible, she advised. Then she went on to discuss the rest of Theo's rather exciting week. Theo had not yet told his parents about his slashed tires and the first locker break-in, and his mother was shocked to learn of these episodes. She was more than a bit irritated that Theo had kept it all quiet. As he was leaving, she asked Miss Gladwell to give Theo strict instructions to go straight to the office after school. At 3:30, Detective Hamilton was waiting in Mr. Mount's classroom. He had called Mr. Mount and asked him to invite Darren, Woody, Chase, Joey, and Ricardo to hang around after school for a brief meeting. With Mr. Mount present, the detective spoke with each boy separately and and briefly. Darren was first, and after establishing the exact location of his locker and in a large photo, the detective asked, "What time did you first go to your locker this morning?" Darren shrugged and said, "When I got to school, just before homeroom." "And homeroom begins when?" 8:40. "Why did you go to your locker?" "To get some books and drop off some books, same as always." "Did you see Theo Boone at the locker this morning?" Darren thought for a second, shrugged again, and said, "I don't think so. I think Theo was already in homeroom." "Who do you remember seeing at your locker this morning?" Another pause as he pondered the question. "Ricardo, maybe Woody, just some of the guys. I really didn't stop and think about who I was seeing at the time. We're usually in a hurry to get to homeroom." "Did you see anyone near the lockers who didn't belong there?" Hamilton asked slowly. "Like who?" "Like anybody who shouldn't have been hanging around your lockers. Did somebody do something wrong?" "That's what we're trying to find out, Darren. Did you see a stranger around the lockers at any time before 10 o'clock this morning?" "A stranger, like an adult?" "An adult, another student, anyone who would not normally be hanging around the locker area at this end of the hallway." Another longer pause, then slowly shook his head. "No, sir, I didn't see anyone like that." "Nothing out of the ordinary?" "No, sir." Similar conversations were had with the other boys. Only Chase remembered bumping into Theo that morning at the lockers, and no, Chase did not see Theo remove books or other items from his backpack. Detective Hamilton was careful not to reveal what had been found in Theo's locker, and he was careful not to give the impression that their friend was in hot water. At 4 p.m. Wednesday afternoon, Theo and his parents, and Ike too, walked into the police station on Main Street, 2 blocks east of the courthouse. They were met by Detective Worman, who led them down a flight of stairs to a small room in a cramped basement. After offering them something to drink, all declined. Worman got down to business. He and Miss Boone had already spoken twice by phone that afternoon, so there would be no surprises. Theo would voluntarily give a statement with plenty of legal advice nearby, and Worman would record it by video camera and audio tape. Theo had assured his parents that he had nothing to hide and knew nothing about the break-in or the stolen goods. He began with Monday and the first episode with his locker. He covered the 2 slashed tires, and he said that Gil, at Gil's Wheels, could confirm those details. He explained, again, that he had not told his parents because he simply had not had the time or the opportunity. He described the large rock crashing into his office the day before. With Worman serving up easy questions, Theo finally got around to the stolen tablets in his locker. He had gone to his locker just a few minutes before the homeroom, same as always. The hall was crowded, noisy, just like the day before and a day before that. He opened the locker with his coat and saw nothing out of the ordinary. He was paying close attention to the contents of his locker because of what happened on Monday. He was certain that the Lynx tablets were not in his locker at that time. He did not see anyone unusual hanging around, no strange adults, no students from other classes, grades, or classrooms. He was not aware of any other person with knowledge of his code. He did not know of similar incidents involving unauthorized entry into a locker at the school. Theo spoke slowly and carefully and repeated his statements when asked to do so. To his left was his mother, and to his right his father. Ike was at the end of the table, still irritated that the police would dare suspect his nephew. Detective Hamilton sat directly across from Theo and patiently walked him through the process. A video camera on a tripod stood next to Hamilton and recorded it all. Theo gave an accurate and detailed summary of his brief run-in with Officer Stu Pickenpaw Tuesday night and explained the circumstances surrounding it. He was certain that he had never been inside Big Mac's systems. He suggested they check the stored sales records to prove he had never bought anything there. When he finished, the camera and recorder were turned off and everyone relaxed. Detective Hamilton explained that they would postpone the fingerprinting because there was not a single print taken from any of the 3 tablets. There was nothing to compare with Theo's prints. Someone was very careful, Hamilton said, looking at Theo. Wiped everything off, probably used gloves. Theo was unable to tell if Hamilton still suspected him. Like all good detectives, he revealed little and acted as though anyone could be guilty. What about the anonymous caller? Ike asked. Any luck tracing his call? Sort of, Hamilton answered abruptly, and it was obvious he did not want to be pressed by Ike. It came from a payphone near the hospital, so it would be difficult to determine who made the call. What time was it received? Asked Woods Boone. 9:20, Hamilton replied. Mr. Boone continued. So if the tablets were not in Theo's locker at 8:40, when he stopped by, then the thief opened his locker at some point during the first period. After he dropped off the tablets, he either left the school and raced to a payphone near the hospital and made the call, or he notified someone on the outside that the mission was accomplished and the police could then be notified. Probably the latter. So you have more than one member of some little gang at work here. Detective Hamilton stared at Woods Boone, who stared right back. Perhaps you should become a detective, Hamilton said. Perhaps you see the obvious here. That was a plant, a setup. Don't know who or why, but it's pretty clear that Theo had nothing to do with it. Right now, he's a victim, not a suspect. I haven't called him a suspect, Mr. Boone, Hamilton said coolly. The crime was less than 24 hours old. Give us a break here. We've just begun the investigation. What's next as far as Theo is concerned? Asked Mrs. Boone. He's free to go. We're not going to arrest him in the middle of the night. If we need to have another chat, I'll give you a call. Hamilton was getting a bit testy, probably because he was getting grilled by a bunch of lawyers. Our job is to track down all leads and try to determine who committed this crime. We don't know if Theo is telling the truth. He certainly sounds believable, but I'm a detective and I've talked to a lot of criminals who claim to be innocent. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. You folks have no doubts, but that's not the way detectives go about their work. One day soon, we hope, we'll know a lot more, and then I'd like to be able to say, Theo, you're telling the truth. Until that happens, though, I'm not believing anybody. You don't believe me? Theo asked, wounded. Look, Theo, I don't know if you're lying, and I don't know if you're telling the truth. It's too early for me, as the detective handling the case, to make that decision. We don't have much evidence in this case so far, but what we do have points to you. Do you understand this? Theo nodded slightly, but it was obvious he wasn't pleased with it. Hamilton looked at his watch, closed the file, and said, Now I thank you folks for stopping by, and as I said, we'll be in touch. The Boones walked out of the police building in a small group. No one was smiling. Theo tried to study in his office at Boone and Boone, but he was too distracted. A new window had been installed and the shattered glass had been removed. There was no sign of the damage from yesterday afternoon, but Theo could still hear crash of breaking glass, the sharp thud of the rock hitting the bookshelf, and the splattering of debris, the shriek of panic from Judge, followed quickly by a furious sound of barking, the frantic seconds afterwards. Theo could almost hear something else. He thought he had heard it in a dream. He thought he had heard it once that morning at school during first period, before the police showed up and ruined his day. He could almost close his eyes, place himself at his desk when the rock came crashing through, and then, in the seconds that followed, he could almost hear footsteps. Someone was running away. The person who threw the rock was making his escape from close by. Theo wished a dozen times he had been able to catch a glimpse of the person running away. Who was this mysterious person? Was it an adult, another student, male or female, a lone gunman, or a member of a gang? Even Judge seemed a bit jumpy. The first return visit to the scene of the crime brings back bad memories, and Theo found it impossible to do his homework. He finally locked the door, took a peek through the new window, and saw no one, and left the building on his bike with Judge in hot pursuit. And that's the end of chapter 9.